Right. Hey, you guys. It's David at Bali and Beyond, Project Awakening, and I'm here with Tracy this morning. How do you say your last name?
Gawley.
Gawley.
Yeah.
Easy. Tracy Gawley. Tracy and I go back probably 10 years since we first met, and so I'm really happy that you're here.
I'm so happy to be here too.
Are you?
Yeah.
What we've been doing the last few months is inviting people to come and share about how we're serving community and how we're carrying a message of awakening and enlightenment, or consciousness. And Tracy's been kind of doing that for 20 years, right? More than 20 years.
Well, 20 years officially.
Yes. Yeah. And that's so cool. And so her practice, her Kundalini yoga practice, her chanting practice has affected hundreds of people, and the ripples go out to probably to millions, really, when you think of the possibility of, well, it's infinite.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Well, I think when you think about the connections, like, sure, I'm one person here who's chanting in Calgary. I'm thinking about the Kundalini community, but there are hundreds of people chanting around even just North America.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel a connection with all of those people. So even though I might not have personally had a connection with them, it's like tree roots under the ground, all coming together and being connected in that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with Kundalini yoga?
Well, in about 97, I became a massage therapist, and I was working at a chiropractor's clinic, and I was extremely sore. I found it very physically fatiguing to do that, and I was tight, and I thought to myself, oh, I need to go and do some yoga. I had never done yoga before.
Wow.
Yeah. And prior to that, earlier in the year, I'd had a car accident, which got me into massage, because I had massage for the first time in my life, and I kind of had this massage therapist who was spiritual. I'd never met anybody who was spiritual before. So she kind of started sharing some stuff with me, and I thought, oh, I think I'd like to be a massage therapist. So I went to school and became a massage therapist. And in that time, I started having this inner feeling coming up that I need a teacher. And I really had no context for what that meant. But I just knew that, I remember talking to her about this and saying, I feel like I need a teacher. And at the time, I had no idea that people actually had spiritual teachers. I was about to find out. So then I had registered for this yoga course, and it was a hatha yoga, which is, good stretching. And then 2 days before, it got canceled. And when I looked in the guide, the only other course that was going to work with the time frame that I had was this Kundalini yoga. And I read the description. I thought, well, that sounds horrible, but I'll try it anyways. Because I think it took me about 6 months to get my motivation going to sign up for that course. I didn't want to lose it. But I walked into this course, and there's this man sitting there with a long gray beard, and I'm thinking, what the heck? And we start, and it's like, I've never been to a yoga class before, so I have no idea really what to expect.
Did you start with breath?
Chanting was the very first thing, because we do
a
a mantra to open up the space and tune in. And then we're doing like leg lifts, and we're doing all this abdominal work, and hands are going like this, and I'm thinking, it's not dawning on me that this is any different than any other kind of yoga, because I've never been before.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm going through it, and I walked into it with what's called a piriformis syndrome, numbness down my one leg. And I'd been doing massage and chiropractic, nothing had been touching it. And then about maybe 2 or 3 months into doing yoga once a week with Seva, my teacher, all of a sudden we did this set where we did all these squats and leg lifts, and I thought I might die. I woke up the next morning, I thought my leg was going to drop off. But once the pain had gone, the feeling was back in my leg.
Wow.
And it had been numb for like over a year.
Nice.
So in that was a turning point for me. I thought, oh, there's something in this yoga. And then after that, I started having some other experiences with other yoga. So I started to realize, in most yoga classes, you're holding stretches and you're doing held strengthening poses. But like the kind of vigorous, movements we're doing and stuff, it's very unique to Kundalini yoga.
Wow.
So that was my introduction to it and how I got involved. And
Is he still with us?
Well, he is. He doesn't teach Kundalini yoga anymore. He stopped that maybe about 15 years ago, but what he's always done is, up until 2 years ago, a weekly meditation class, and now it's a monthly meditation class that we do. So he gives us, we get some wisdom teaching, we do a bit of processing or practice a technique, and then we go home and work on that technique every day for the next month, and then we come back and we start
Wow.
the next thing. Yeah, so I've been doing that for 20 years with Seva.
Wow. So, and he's
Yeah.
here in Calgary.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
He has a following.
yeah. So
Nice.
it's been ongoing. Myself and Lisa Wellischuk, who I sing with, we've been longtime students of his. I've been with him since '99, and she's, I think, been with him since 2004 or 2003.
Nice.
Yeah, and we haven't missed a class in that time.
Wow.
So like we're serious.
You are.
Yeah.
You are. You're committed.
Mm-hmm.
So, you were telling me before we sat down that the chanting that you originally didn't have music
Yeah.
to it, and then you went to LA and discovered that there was more. Can you tell
So
us
there
about
was, so there's a world of singing mantra in Kundalini Yoga that I
Yes.
didn't even know about. My teacher had always just chanted in a monotone. So that was, I'd never chanted before, so that was my only experience with it. And then I went to LA on a road trip with another friend of mine who was also a Kundalini yogi at the time. And we decided, well, we'll go to her studio and we'll hang out for a while. We'll do a bunch of classes because that was the only class we'd ever been to. And we'll see what it's like. Well, we walk into the first class. We
Whose
walk
studio
into
was that?
It was Gurmuk's studio, Golden
Okay.
Bridge in LA.
Okay.
She had just written a book called The 8 Human Talents, which was based on the 8 chakras and
Yes.
kind of exercises for each one and consciousness for each one. So we were kind of excited about that. Let's go meet her and do some stuff there. So we walk into the class, and it's a maternity class. So all these women are pregnant except for us, but we just wanted to get in there and start. Cindy Crawford is off to the side of us. She's in that class, so it's like kind of, she's yogini to the stars type of thing. And we start doing this, and all of a sudden, like, we're doing really hard stuff. She's working us harder than Seva has ever worked. Like, when I left that studio after a week, I thought I should have a t-shirt that said, "I survived Gurmuk," because it was so intense. But at the same time, what I had never experienced before was the moment things got intense, she turned the music on. And she had mantras, and it wasn't like, it was like, everybody just like started chanting along as we're, let's say we're doing something like this or whatever, everybody's just chanting along as we're doing it. And I was like, wow, I had never experienced that before. And earlier in the year, I had received my spiritual name from Yogi Bhajan, who was the master of Kundalini Yoga. He brought it to the West in 1968. And that name translates to true divine music. And at the time, I felt like it was really like salt in a wound, because at that time, I wasn't a musician, but I had a secret hope to be a musician. I was one of those people with the wounded voice. I couldn't sing a note to save my life. I remember being at parties.
That's not true, obviously.
Well, not anymore, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I remember being at parties where people would pull out a guitar and they start playing, and they'd be singing the Eagles or something, and I'd be like psyching myself up in my head. Okay, next round, next chorus, just sing a little, sing a little.
Jump in there, yeah.
And I'd be like, and I couldn't do it to save my life. Yeah, so I kind of have one of those stories where this is an evolution and a process for me. So that was kind of the first key moment for me when I heard that music was in the classes, starting to understand, because Yogi Bhajan would say that your spiritual name is your destiny in this lifetime and your highest potential. So I had no idea how I was going to live my highest potential at that moment, but that was kind of the first key to how that was going to start.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I went on, can I keep talking? So then I went on to have another experience that summer at a 3HO summer solstice event. They gathered down in the Jemez Mountains in New Mexico for 10 days.
Yes.
They do Kundalini Yoga for 10 days straight. All teachers around the world come and teach and whatever. So we went there for the first time. And I'm not a camper at all, and it's camping. So we already got level 1. Like, that's going to be a challenge. I'm an extreme introvert. You're there with like 1,000 people type of thing.
Yeah.
No privacy ever. You're in a communal bathroom. It's just like, to the 10th degree of out of my comfort zone.
Here I am. Yeah.
Out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I'm there, my friend and I are there, we're camping, we're getting through it, we're going, and I mean, if you're doing Kundalini Yoga every day, you are stirring up the crap like crazy, basically.
Emotions.
So it's just
Everything.
like, because the whole idea of the vigorousness of the exercises is that it starts moving the energy through where the blocks are, right?
Yes.
And then whatever consciousness is in that block begins to rise up into your awareness. And then hopefully you can let it go, right? Process it. So I was just like up to the eyebrows, kind of in fodder by about day 6 with that. And then I'd gone to, they had the early morning chanting, so from like 4 till 6 each morning, they'd get up and chant for an hour. We'd do yoga for an hour and then chant for an hour. And I was just like feeling like, I think I might die if I don't go home right now, but I can't because I had to drive like 24 hours to get here type of thing. So I sit down, we do the yoga, and this woman starts chanting. And on her first note, all of a sudden, it's just like an arrow to my heart. And my heart just bursts open, and I begin to sob. And I sob, and I sob, and I sob. And I'm not sobbing because I'm sad at this point. I'm sobbing because all of a sudden, I'm having the most profound experience of my life.
Wow.
I'm experiencing a remembrance of the essence of my soul. And from that moment on, it was just kind of like something broke open for me in that moment. And all of a sudden, I felt like, whoop, I jumped and I changed roads. And now I'm going to go down this road and I'm going to pursue music as a sacred art and see where that leads me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so,
And that was Sanatam,
yes.
who was singing that morning.
Oh, okay. So she was there too.
Yeah, so she was one of the teachers there.
Yes.
So she was leading the sadhana, the early morning chanting that day. And then I just started following her around the country. Anytime I could get near to her, I would go to one of her concerts because I would start to feel that bliss and that ecstasy once again. And in the beginning, it was like, I was like a junkie looking for a fix. Like it was that bad.
Yeah, that good.
But, well, yeah, that good. And then, like I had told you earlier, that we had created a chant band because I invited her to come to Calgary to do a concert, but I had never seen chanting in Calgary before, so I didn't know if there was even an audience for it. So we started practicing. We practiced for a year, and then we put on a concert just to see if we could get people interested. And people were interested, and they did start coming, and then that was just kind of the beginning of it. And I didn't start out thinking, oh, I'm going to be a chant concert promoter, or I'm going to be a chant artist. But I couldn't give it up, and eventually I could start invoking that experience within myself, and I didn't have to kind of chase it anymore.
So you do some chanting for people or with people every week?
Lisa and I do a monthly chanting event, usually Sunday afternoons. 3 till 5 in the Royal Oak area. Yeah, so we kind of start. We usually have sometimes it can be as small as 7 people, but usually it's around 15 to 25.
Have you recorded?
Well, if you go on YouTube, to Tracy Gawley, you can see some clips from different things we've done and whatever. Yeah.
We did.
We have a question.
Do we?
From Brittany Thompson. Can someone tell me the difference between Kundalini awakening or enlightenment, opening the third eye?
Okay, so opening the third eye would be a process within a Kundalini awakening. So Yogi Bhajan had said that the problem isn't raising the Kundalini energy, it's keeping it up once it's raised. So the Kundalini raises, and then you kind of get this, now all the stuff you need to clear out and work on that isn't in alignment with that energy. Sometimes that energy is called the soul nerve, so it's really kind of the energy of your soul. And this is now a process of becoming aligned with that. So opening the third eye would be a process in that. In Kundalini Yoga, as taught by Yogi Bhajan, we start at the bottom chakras. We kind of hopefully work out the dross because there's a strong downward pull in those lower 3 chakras. We've got to work that out. That's kind of the more worldly stuff. And then we start to move into the heart center. The longest journey you'll ever take, Yogi Bhajan used to say, was between the navel and the heart center, 6 inches. Once you get into the heart, then it's an upward pull, and the natural way to go is up. Yeah. So just like opening the third eye point, it's not different than opening any of the other chakras. With the opening of the third eye point comes intuition is the biggest thing. Intuition, being able to see cause and effect, so you can kind of, you can see what's going to happen, so your actions become more dharmic rather than karmic.
I call that God consciousness.
It's related to the guru. That force that takes us from darkness to light.
Yeah. So I hadn't
So the crown chakra would be the ultimate God consciousness.
Yes.
But
Awesome. At school, it's interesting. The energy, we're talking about. I mean, I've experienced and had amazing experiences, and it's never left. But it seems that it's more, I can't seem to generate it on my own. I almost need to be with somebody where the energy matches.
Yeah.
And we don't even have to do anything.
Right.
It just starts to roll.
And that's part of why students go to classes and why people come to chant circles, because Lisa and I, being longtime practitioners, when we start to chant, I mean, when all goes well, we invoke that experience within ourselves, and then eventually over the 2-hour period, people come along for the ride to the most that they can, right? To whatever their potential is. It's like an entrainment that happens. And I would say the same
I'm
thing.
coming.
I would say the same thing happens, like I do massage as well.
Yep.
So the same thing happens when I'm massaging somebody, because chant music is a very big part of massage. Like if somebody told me, oh, I don't want to hear mantra music during my massage, I'd have to say, well, bye. I can't.
This is the wrong room.
This isn't for you then,
Yes.
because this is key to my process. That the mantra music's going, I'm chanting in my head, I'm getting into a meditative state as I'm doing the meditation, and I'm hopefully, as I go into that state, the client comes along for the ride. And people, one of the key things that people say, main things after a massage is, oh, I was so relaxed, like I've never gotten that relaxed before. Yeah. And I think the fact that over 20 years of practicing, I've developed a meditative mind and the ability to go into that place where I can be just completely present with that person and what's going on, and just be completely with the mantra.
Nice.
Can we talk about mantra for a bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
My favorite topic.
Yes.
So when I'm chanting the mantra, what's happening is, at least for Kundalini, I'll speak from my perspective, which is Kundalini Yoga. These mantras are of the vibration of Creator, Source, God, Guru, whatever word you're going to use to describe that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So as we chant it, it's that alignment process
Yes.
that we begin to vibrate at that same level. And then whatever is not at that level within our consciousness naturally will begin to rise to the surface. This is where most people get into trouble, because if they don't really know how to process, they haven't had a lot of experience with processing what comes up, and if a lot has been suppressed, they'll often hit resistance in that moment and stop. But I encourage people to stay with the process and actually just seek out the kind of help that you need. If you need to go for a bit of therapy, or if you need to find a mentor or somebody else who can help you process, go and find that, because it's worth it. Yeah. So the mantra will begin to align your consciousness, and then that'll come up. We can think about, there's an analogy that I like to use is the Grand Canyon, and how the mantra works on your mind. So the Grand Canyon wasn't always grand. It wasn't a great big canyon. That water had to flow through that area and cut that rock over time. So if we think about mantra being the water that's cutting the rock, and the mind being the canyon or the rock, as we chant more and more and more, they say it takes about 100,000 repetitions of a mantra to experience mastery of that state of being.
Only.
Yeah. So we chant, and through this process, our mind becomes changed. We create different pathways in the mind. And eventually, like, the mind becomes shiny like a diamond, cut like a diamond.
Polish the bowl. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, scientifically, we can talk, some people won't call this science, my husband probably wouldn't, but I call it science. Scientifically, we can talk about there being 84 meridian points on the roof of the mouth, and as the tongue hits them, it's like tapping out on a computer board or a piano, a code for wellness that then stimulates the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, and then that has a whole cascading effect throughout the rest of the body in terms of your wellness and your health. Yogis would say that the glands are your guardians of health. And if your glands aren't balanced, then you're going to be emotionally, physically, or energetically imbalanced in some way. So Kundalini Yoga works strongly on balancing your glandular system and strengthening your nervous system.
Wow. I love it. I mean, from a different angle, I'm looking at a lot of this stuff myself right now through some of the books I'm reading, but totally from a different angle, more from a science and exercise and diet angle.
Yeah.
You know, around opening up and also strengthening and helping the mind to stay you know, available and sharp. And so you meditate every day?
I have every day for 19 years. I started in '99, but I didn't have a daily practice until 2000. Yeah.
And
I have a story about that if you want.
yes.
Okay. So in
Nice.
I had been in Kundalini yoga for 6 months at this point, and then I started hearing a voice in my head, or a feeling, however you want to put it, that said, quit your job and go teach yoga. I thought, well, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. I've been doing yoga for 6 months and I've never done it before. But I did want to quit my job because I wasn't having a great time at the chiropractors doing massage. So I was thinking, well, maybe that part would work. But then I kind of ignored it. But then the internal distress that I was feeling and the push became so strong that I could no longer ignore it. So that, okay, I'll quit my job. I'll open up a home clinic for massage and I'll go teach fitness because I was a fitness instructor at that time. So I did that. My massage business went very well, so it wasn't a problem. But the fitness just wouldn't take off. I was thinking, well, that's strange because this is kind of, and I was still kind of, you know, this is a third eye point thing. I was being sent a message, but I was editing it and changing it to fit my limitations.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. So then eventually it became so internally uncomfortable for me to not be following it that I thought, okay, okay, God, if you want me to teach yoga, I'm going to teach yoga. So I thought I better bring a notebook to class with me because I better start figuring out to like writing down some yoga sets and whatnot. So I show up the first night with my book, and my teacher Seva, you know, near the end of the class, he goes, "Oh, Tracy has decided that she'd like to teach yoga, so we're going to start teaching now in a way that will teach her how to do this." And I hadn't said anything to him about teaching yoga, but he was just, you know, picking up the vibe.
His third eye.
Yes. And he's very masterful.
Yes.
So I just sat down. You know, this was kind of before the time of internet and all that, before people were going on to find stuff.
He actually may have sent you that.
Who knows?
Yes, with his crown chakra availability.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to say, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it came from the divine anyways, right?
Yeah.
Whatever channel.
We're all part of the divine.
Yeah.
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 Anyway.
So, yeah, in that time there wasn't a whole bunch of teacher, you know, now you can get certified anywhere in yoga, but you couldn't back then, especially Kundalini yoga. I taught here for probably a good 10 years before there was anybody else other than my teacher and myself. One other person that I know of. Yeah. I forget where I was going with that story, but...
Well, meditation. You started meditating on a daily basis.
So then that's how it ties in. So Seva had said to me at the time, he goes, yeah, okay. So he said, to be a teacher, you basically have to, you know, get some manuals so you know what to teach. Because in Kundalini Yoga, we don't create the sets. Yogi Bhajan laid out the sets, and there's a specific way to create a specific result. So I might do a set that strengthens the kidneys, or opens the third eye point, or releases emotion, whatever. So I started writing down sets, and then also he said, and you need to start a daily practice. So from that day on, I started a daily practice, and it's never ended.
So you meditate in the morning?
I do.
And you have a space?
I do. I have a meditation space in my home, and that's where I do massage now as well.
You know that the mission that I resisted was this helping people create meditation spaces in their homes. You know, I resisted it to the point where I literally was, you know, I almost went bankrupt.
Oh my goodness!
From you know, saying yes, but no.
Right.
yes, but no. You know, because I just didn't know. I so wanted to know exactly the how-to, and I wanted to understand. You know, and I was afraid. You know, I didn't see myself as a teacher, or you know, or what's evolving now. You know, but so it started with this meditation spaces idea, and creating spaces in people's homes. But the whole thing is really lifting the vibration of the planet.
Right.
One meditator at a time.
Yes, one home at a time.
And one home at a time. So you were saying earlier that having a meditation space in your home is, what did you call it?
Oh, I think I might have called it a jewel.
You did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it's been like for me. Like it started, You know, in the first house I lived in, when my husband and I were first married, I did it in the dining room where we didn't have any furniture yet. And that was my place, and I actually taught a few classes there and whatever. But then when we moved to our next house, which was 13 years ago, I said, like, I'm going to have a space just specific for this.
Designated meditation space, your sacred space. Yes.
And it's been like that, and my son calls it the meditation room, and you know, and that's when I took a hiatus from massage for about 9 years when my son was born, and then when I went back to it, I put my table in there, and at first I was thinking, ooh, do I want to have people kind of in my sacred space and whatever? But I'm thinking, well, of course I want to have people in my sacred space. Of course.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Because my whole idea in life is to
share that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people say, oh, you know, don't you like people's energy in that space? And to be honest, I've never once noticed it.
No. That's what
No.
this is. This little room has become that for us. You know, when people come in and they go, oh, and they sit down in here, and they don't know that they're in the middle of our, you know, of our sacred space.
Right.
This room is, we have our meditation classes here. Well, it's not really a class group on Monday nights.
Gathering,
Yeah, so yeah, I think that not only will we see meditation spaces or sacred spaces or in every home, but also I see the possibility of them being in every office, every place of work. And school, yes. And treatment center, and jail, and hospital, and you know, all.
There's a great documentary of which I cannot remember the name that I watched on Netflix, and it was in India, and they brought mindfulness meditation. They let all the, I was going to call them employees. What do you call the people in prison?
Inmates.
Inmates. They brought all the inmates, not all of them, some of them, whatever ones had special privileges or whatever, to come and participate in a 10-day silent meditation. And
like
when they came out, so for some of the inmates' stories were just like, it changed them.
Of course it would.
Yeah, of course.
That's why we don't go. We're afraid of that.
That's like, you know, now I'm going to get on a jail spiel. I think jails really should be a place of reform. Yeah. Instead of punishment. Like, you know. Yeah, and that's catching on in some places. Yeah. It really is. And I was watching a documentary or a little shorty about jails in Brazil, I think it was. And you know, a good portion of the jails have changed their whole format. And there's no guards, and there's no... Yeah, I saw a documentary like that. I think it was somewhere in Norway or something like that. And it was like they were talking about how being incarcerated, like not having your freedom taken is the punishment, not being dehumanized within that. So they had a normal apartment. I mean, it was modest, it was tiny, but you interact with people, so there's like a family, you know, kind of a family vibe going on, and it's humane. Humane, yes. Yeah. So meditation, sacred spaces, you had mentioned, what is the chanting? Elevating one's spirit, developing a relationship with one's soul. Oh, we could talk about that. How does the mantra work? Yeah, so we talked about how the mantra worked in terms of elevating, but we could talk about, like one of the kind of... You could also talk about TA therapy. Oh, yeah. Okay, but yeah, go ahead, sorry. So one of the key practices that I practice in my life is intention. And I remember being at an event once, and I asked people to share their intention, and one person said, oh, I don't set intentions. And I thought, well, that's a little bit crazy, because every moment life moves because of intention. Most of us are projecting through our third eye point subconscious intention. We project, you know, what happened in the past, our beliefs. We end up experiencing that in our lives. So I work consciously with intention. We can think about mantra being an intention to raise our vibration, our consciousness to a certain state. But also just in the morning when I sit down, before I start meditating, I just ask, you know, what do I need to work on most in this moment? And then maybe a feeling arises, maybe some sadness or some anger, maybe a thought passes through my mind. You know, so it gives me feedback. So I'm in this constant relationship with my soul, or with God, however you want to say it, source, creator. And in this way, every morning I ask, and then I watch throughout my day to see what feedback comes. So feedback comes within me as feelings, thoughts, internal experiences. It comes in the things that people say to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the billboards as I drive by places, and I'm taking
Those
in this
damn
feedback.
billboards, they do that, don't
They
they?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So I'm taking this feedback in,
Yes. Yeah.
and then based on the feedback, I now change my intention.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm in this constant relationship with the universe, and in this way, I'm able to live in my soul's intent.
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter, I can't get too far off track,
Mm-hmm.
because I start getting feedback letting me know that I'm off track.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so then I shift and I adjust. You know, I spent a lot of my time in my youth driving in the gutters,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the ditch. But you know, it's so much easier to drive in the main lane, the main road, right?
I know.
Yeah. So really, kind of the theme behind all of the work that I do
Mm-hmm.
is helping people to develop
Mm-hmm.
a relationship with their soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I often wonder when I say that to people if people have any idea what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's like, okay, having some internal awareness. So being aware of what it is that I'm feeling and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, and also noticing how what I feel and think affects my behavior and how
Mm-hmm.
I act in the world. So that's kind of one realm of it. Another realm of being in tune with your soul is developing the third eye point, so that
Mhm.
you can have that constant relationship with cause and effect, and how will my actions affect this situation, and what is in the heart center, opening the heart center,
Mhm.
having a neutral mind, a
consciousness.
witnessing consciousness.
Consciousness,
Yeah.
Yeah. Being tuning in,
Mm-hmm.
being present.
Yeah.
Yes. And I like the idea of the third eye, but I think that that's a little too much for some people. The whole idea of doing, I call it lifelong learning.
Oh, yeah.
And so coming to understand, first of all of our emotions and feelings, so that we know what we're feeling.
Yeah.
You know, if we're in fear, if we're
Yeah.
in anger, if we're in resentment, or we're in grief, or
So we process it, right?
Yes.
And we just have to experience
So we
what
can
comes up.
lift
So we
out
don't
of-
just don't want to suppress it, because
Yes,
it
yeah.
becomes problems in the body and
Yes,
in the mind
yeah,
when
yeah,
that happens,
yeah.
right?
Repress or suppress.
Yeah.
And so
So that first step of
yeah, and
aware
we don't
of what
necessarily
it
need
is.
to express either, in too much of a dramatic
Yeah.
way. But to
I call that taking
acknowledge.
it to the street.
Yeah.
When you're not able to witness it within yourself, things can get a little wild, and you'll have to act it out.
A bit, yeah.
And of course, when you start acting out, it gets messy, and it can cause you harm, it can cause other people harm.
Yeah.
But developing a meditative mind so that you can be having that whole experience, but internally,
True.
and process it so you don't have to take it to the street.
So we're reading a book here every day. Well, Dr. David Hawkins.
Yeah, I saw you doing a reading.
And it's totally, his book is called Letting Go, and it's totally about dealing with all of that stuff,
Yeah.
so that we can raise up to where, to unconditional love, to that, to the peace that passeth all understanding,
Oh, I just got a tingle on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we're stuck in here, and I think we can be stuck in the lower emotions if we're not aware, and so reading the book for folks is to just my way, and we're going to read more, but and to say, hey, this is where many of us are in complaint, in basically in selfishness, and when we move up, we move out of selfishness into service, and how can I?
That's a huge jump, though.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
why not?
Of course. I'm just saying, realistically, for the average person, that's a huge jump to really get to
Well,
that place
being
of
in
selfless
complaint
service.
and
But you do it
is-
by going through the motions.
Yes,
Like you what's it, fake it till you make it, right?
Well, you can.
Like you just sit
Yeah.
down and you be with. There's a, I don't know if everybody knows this, but especially in chanting, when one or more people come together, the effect of it becomes exponential.
Yes.
So, in Kundalini Yoga, we'd say, you want to hang out in the vibration that you want to be. Right?
Yes.
Hang out with people who have what you want.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And eventually it becomes you too.
I was looking for my bell.
Oh.
He said that sometimes when somebody's here and they say something that's like, "Shh," and I ring my bell.
Oh, okay.
And I think your son took it away, didn't he? Yeah. And because I have this other thing I do, it's called ch-ch. It's like those little moments, and
They just kind of land.
yes,
Yeah.
they're amazing. So I think that we can lift the vibration of the. Thank you. I I really do. I think that yes, it's a long way.
Yeah.
But
I'm just being realistic, but I'm saying that's the work.
yeah, well, the hell
Yeah.
with realistic.
Okay.
You just, really.
Let me take on a different perspective.
Let's imagine. I mean, because I look at myself for a second. I mean, I was a street kid, and as a youth, I learned my entrepreneurial skills selling pot,
Yeah.
and I rode a Harley, and I'm a recovered alcoholic and addict, and if I can lift out of that,
Of course.
anybody can.
Yeah.
And it's only taken 40 years, but still, it doesn't really matter. And I'm not always out of it.
Yeah. That's the nature of it, right?
Yeah.
We come in and out. There's
Yeah.
different. There's places in our consciousness where we have a blind spot and we fall into it.
Yes, I mean,
but
sometimes
through
I can be.
practice,
I can be in
it
deep
becomes
fear,
more and more. Yeah.
or deep,
But you have tools
Yes.
when you fall into fear now. Whereas in my childhood, when I fell into fear, I didn't have tools. I was just in fear.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the difference now. That once somebody teaches you something,
Yeah.
that's a way out.
Can I
Do you
just
take it?
share with you a tool around fear?
Yeah.
So I thought for a lot of time that I could manage my way out of fear. I could,
As most people do. Yeah.
that I could, do gratitude lists, or I could, just talk my way out of it. I could say, David, that's a silly fear. Really, that never happens. You're not going to be pushing a shopping cart on 17th Avenue. It's okay. And that's because that's when I ride the fear all the way to the
Right.
end.
Yeah.
And that's and I realized, well, it's actually in my 12-step program, that there's only really one tool with fear, and that's prayer. And I just asked to have it removed. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
And I just asked to have it removed. I know that sounds maybe like too simple.
I do the same thing. I'm like, God, take this negativity from me and return it to me as something more beneficial.
Yeah. And
it's done.
in my prayers, take it away and show me what you have me to be and who I can serve. Where because the psychic change that we're talking about, from what about me, what am I going to lose, or
From me to we.
to how can I serve, is a big lift, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But for most of us, if we stay in the what about me, we don't have happy lives.
No.
We're miserable and complaint, and angry, and but we can lift out of that, and I think Kundalini does that, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything I'm involved in does that, and everything you're involved with, any kind of.
So that's what I want to help
practices,
people do, to move out of the story of not enough,
Yeah.
into the story of abundance and how can I share.
Right.
And that's my lifelong
And
goal.
that's the process, right?
Yes.
Of moving through that. Yeah.
So we're both in the same game.
Yeah. Well, who isn't?
Well,
We're just in different places along the ladder in terms of.
Well, of course, we're all in the same game, but I think what you're talking about, though, is
Yeah.
that sometimes folks are, they just don't have the consciousness to know that there's a possibility
Right.
Above where
Right.
they're at, and not
Yeah.
above making it higher or lower or better or worse, because it's all the same.
Yeah.
But
I remember being a child and a youth and feeling stuck and limited and wanting to change what I was experiencing but not able to. And I had no idea of I grew up Catholic, so that was kind of my spiritual context. I didn't have anything else like shamanism or Eastern religion or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was just prayer was my big thing. That's what I did as a spiritual practice.
Which is a good one.
Yeah, except I prayed to change other people.
Yeah.
And that never worked.
Buggers.
And then, God damn it. And then one day, something switched in me, and I started praying to develop within myself what I needed to carry myself out of this. Everything changed.
Nice.
And in that moment, prayer became powerful for me. And all of a sudden, as long as I was willing and wishing and hoping for the benefit of all, and for the best outcome for everybody involved, all of a sudden things started manifesting and changing. And
Sweet.
mm-hmm.
Sweet. Do you have do you do like a prayer list of people that you sometimes pray for?
Well, yeah, so part of Kundalini Yoga is you kind of tune in, you do the yoga, you do the meditation, and then at the end, then you pray for the well-being of all beings.
Nice.
So at the end of my practice is always prayer time. After everything is open, my heart's open, I've got the fuel for the prayer, because love energy is fuel for prayer, for intention. My third eye point's open so I can project into the causal realm. That's when I say prayers. And I will have like kind of a list of people in my mind, but then just, sometimes people just pop up.
Yes.
You can just be open to who needs it and pop up and let it come.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of my class. Like at the end of Kundalini Yoga, we take a moment and we pray.
The power of prayer. I think my first real conscious experience of it was my family, we were all alcoholics.
Yeah.
And good.
Like a lot of families, yeah.
And we now 4 out of 5 of my siblings are sober, including me today, and have amazing lives that are spiritually based, really, and service based and love based, and we think that my mom just prayed her ass off.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Like hours. We called her a prayer warrior.
Wow.
And we think that had a huge effect on our lives.
Yogi Bhajan says that there's nothing more powerful than the prayer of a mother.
Oh yeah.
For her child.
Yeah. And I've told some moms that.
Yeah.
I really have. There's mother's prayers are like they're golden. They're platinum.
Yeah.
And so I think that the path you've taken is pretty amazing. And through the Kundalini Yoga. And you mentioned this, and I don't know if we're going to go with TA therapy. What's that?
Yeah, so it's a theory of personality development.
Oh.
So it's a type of psychology.
Yes.
It works with the inner child,
Okay.
basically. So getting to the feelings, because like when we're in a stuck state, it's the inner child that's having a problem within us, basically. Yeah. We're coming up against whatever wounding the inner child has or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
having a tantrum.
kind of the theory is that there's 3 ego states that we can be in at any time.
Yes.
We kind of diagram it as a circle with a P in it, which is the parental ego state. That's how our parents felt, how our parents acted, how they, what they believed. All the shoulds and shouldn'ts are kind of in that ego state. And then we have the adult ego state, which is the here and now. So thinking, feeling, and behaving appropriate to this moment. And then there's the child ego state, which has, how I felt as a child, how I thought, what I believed. So at any given moment, in a healthy person, one's consciousness can flow between those 3 states. But when we get contamination, either of the adult, so the adult state can become contaminated. So if the child contaminates the adult state, then my ability to be here, present in the moment, gets clouded by how I was feeling as a child. So if I had a traumatic childhood, we would say that I've got some contamination of my adult ego state from my wounded child. Same thing, the parental ego state can come down. So if we experienced, to put it nicely, uneven parenting, we can have a lot in that parental ego state that is not of benefit to us, right? And is limited in some way. So TA therapy is basically, using any therapeutic technique, but that's kind of the theory, to decontaminate our adult state.
So you do that, then you help people with that? You do
Well, I did the training a long time ago, and I'm what's called a therapist in training. So I do see people for that at times, but I prefer just to let it kind of influence all of my work.
Okay.
So when someone comes for a massage, we sit down, we have a check-in to begin with. They might tell me what's going on. If something, kind of arises, we might do a quick piece of work, like maybe some 2-chair work or something for the inner child, and help with some redecision work type of thing, and then go on the table and help them, let the massage, help them process.
Move the energy out.
More of it,
Yeah. Wow.
But I don't do a whole lot of just sit down and do therapy with people, but I do a little bit of it.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's
I prefer
nice.
to kind of just let it influence everything that I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
That's like a whole spiritual practice in and of itself.
raising your son.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful being. Yeah. And I mean, we have the opportunity now to really make an effect on the next generation.
Right.
And,
yeah.
and with love and help parents be loving, supporting parents.
Yeah.
And it's hard when parents are still in their child. So
yeah.
we have children
Because a
raising
child
children.
can't raise a child. Yeah.
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 They're angry or stomping around trying to get their way.
Yeah.
Which is the lower realm of what about me?
Yeah.
I want to lose this, or often our fear is, what am I going to lose, or what am I not going to get?
Mm.
And when we're in the child.
Yeah. Or, you're trying to get that child need met, right?
Mm-hmm.
But another child can't ever meet that need for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you need to take it to therapy and work it out in a place where you can actually get what it is that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or practice being present.
Mm-hmm.
Practice.
Yeah.
You're right, there are blind spots, so it's hard
Yeah.
to see.
In my experience of kind of, I was going to say growing up, growing up my 48 years that I've been alive, is that I've had to hit healing from every direction.
Yeah.
With therapy, with a whole bunch of different types of therapy, with a whole bunch of different types of spiritual practices. I never mentioned, but Seva, my teacher, is masterful in many different practices. So over the years, in the beginning, we started with Kundalini Yoga, but then within maybe 4 years of that, then we started working with all different, so we've done Kabbalistic practices, shamanistic practices, we've psychology practices. So I've had a really kind of broad perspective, experience of spiritual practices. Yeah. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that it helps.
Yeah.
The more perspective you have.
Yeah, that's my commitment to lifelong learning, I call it, and awareness, and to my prayer has often been to be shown the whole mosaic, because when I'm in my selfish mode, it's very focused. I can only see this like this, but my prayer has been, show me the whole. Let me see the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I have to expand enough for that to be possible. And lately, it's been like, wow.
Yeah.
The more I really get that my story is not me. And that we're all somewhat caught in our story, and that when we meditate and we drop into the emptiness, we drop into the really
the
who we
beyond
are.
story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really who we are, and then we look. I get to come back and say, "Wow, look! I still have a body.
Yeah.
I'm still here." But it's exciting to have kind of lost possessiveness of things. Do you know what I mean? One of my examples is I still have a Harley Davidson. For years I was really big about my Harley, and now I go in the garage and I think, wow, look at that. But there's no connection to me.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know? There's no me about it. I have to even think, oh, I ride that thing. But then there's no me sometimes to think that I'm riding that thing. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like the prayers are it's happening.
And bringing that conscious back, I think I heard the term bringing heaven to earth. So it's like in spiritual practice, we'll have these experiences where we experience higher consciousness, but it's not about just having that experience and coming back and then being an asshole in your life. It's about bringing that back down and now integrating that into your life, and then lifting others up in whatever way that's possible in your practice.
So speaking of that, so if somebody wanted to, can you take somebody who's never had any yoga experience and help them, you have classes?
Yeah, well, I teach Thursday nights
Yes.
in Royal Oak, the community of Royal Oak. There are now that, since about 2008, they've started having teacher trainings in Calgary for Kundalini Yoga, so there's a lot of Kundalini instructors. Yeah, there is a website, of which it would really help if I could remember what it is, but you can actually go on it and kind of see where you could Google it, Calgary Kundalini Yoga Community, I think it's called, at least on Facebook it is, and you could get a whole bunch of information about different classes going on in the city. There's Studio Satnam in 17th Avenue.
Yes.
They're dedicated to Kundalini Yoga.
Yeah, it's a cute little studio. I've been in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
we've done some chants there in the past.
Have you?
Yeah.
It would be wonderful to have you come on a Sunday morning and here and do some chanting for us.
Oh yeah.
Would you do that sometime? And
Yeah.
we'll invite. We'll make an event of it.
Sure.
And it could be before our dance.
Yeah.
On our Sunday morning ecstatic dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd
And
be
then
great.
you could stay and dance.
Yeah, sure. I'd finally get back into stack dancing.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So, and then people can come and chant as well. Is that Thursday night too?
No, that's Sundays typically. I think we have, if you go on my website, you can see the list of what the dates are. The next one is March 10th, Sunday, 3 till 5. And then, yeah.
So, a lot of what you're doing, what Tracy's doing, is I see Kundalini Yoga as a long-term practice. And so for folks who really want to experience freedom, freedom can come through the discipline of Kundalini Yoga, because I understand it's a reasonably disciplined practice.
Well, to say that though, I mean, just do anything for 3 minutes and it'll do something for you.
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, if I can't do this every day, I shouldn't do it. It's like anything.
Yes.
Just do whatever you can. If 3 minutes is your, time that you've got per day.
Like 3 minutes of meditation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 minutes of meditation, do 3 minutes of breath of fire. There's different
the
breath
different
of
things
fire,
in,
or there's an exercise you can do.
Yeah.
It's good to do something consistently, especially for 40 days straight, to help kind of start to rewire the brain. But even if it's just 3 minutes, that's okay. It's just important to choose what you can do consistently.
Yes. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
So, what would you say, after 20-some years, would be the biggest benefit that you've realized from meditation? Or from
The
all
peace
of your
that.
practice? The peace, yeah.
Yeah. Like, just to feel like I've got this strength within me that no matter what comes, I can weather these waters. And I can do it with, for the most part, elegance and grace. And that wasn't my experience. I was a freaking hot mess at one point in my life. So this is like a complete, 360 or 180 for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think through the practice of Kundalini Yoga, I've strengthened my nervous system so I can handle the stress of life. I've developed my meditative mind so that I can be present, I can be discerning, I can be heart-opened, I can be, I can witness what arises without becoming reactionary to it.
Nice.
And in that way, process what needs to be processed. I can watch the feedback, I can respond to what's coming to me, I can intend to follow my soul's intent and do that. And I feel like, in the last 10 years, I've hit my stride, and I feel like I am on that path, whereas before, maybe I wouldn't have been able to say that. Yeah.
Nice. So you promote sometimes people coming to town. Is there anything coming up that you want to talk about?
We don't have anything right now. We just had a huge fall of more chant artists coming to Calgary than we've ever had. We had Sanattam, Simrit, Ajit came to Canmore, Jai Jagdish came. These are all kind of Kundalini artists, chant artists. Yeah.
Nice.
So they kind of come in clumps. They kind of call me and let me know when they're coming, rather than me call them and tell them. Yeah.
Nice. Well,
but if you're on my email list, I do a monthly newsletter. You'll always get notices about what's coming up with my events, as well as if there's touring
I'm on
artists
your
coming.
list.
Are you?
But if folks want to get on your list, they can do it on your Facebook page?
On my
website.
My website.
On the website.
tracysvision.com. On the contact page, or any of the pages have a prompt.
They're both linked. Awesome.
Great. Thank you.
I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, I feel like we walked a distance.
Anything else you want to share?
Just thank you for having me. This is like my most favorite thing to come and talk about.
Yes.
Evolution and consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also on your website, people can get in touch with you for massage.
Yep, for massage, for the chant circles.
How long's the massage?
Anywhere from an hour to 2 hours.
Nice.
Yeah, I like the 2-hour one because it gives you a chance to really,
Disappear.
yeah, sink into it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Well, I think that would be a treat. I want to come.
yeah.
Give a massage. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
in,
my
and
pleasure.
thank you for the work that you're doing, because I see that you know, you got the message to teach yoga, and probably from that yes, you know, which was maybe a resistant yes, but
Yeah.
But from that yes, you've kept saying yes.
Right. Even when I'm scared, I say yes.
Yes. You know.
And then I go get the help that I need to work through what comes up when I
Yes.
say yes.
Yes. I mean, yes is the magic word, isn't it?
Yeah.
And meditation, I say, is the super drug.
Mm.
And I don't know if this is a good reference or not, but yes is the magic word. Yes is full of love, and so thank you for your yes.
Oh, my pleasure.
And our
Yeah.
community is that much better because of you. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, thank you. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Oh,
Thank you.
a couple of quick things. I'm supposed to tell you. I'm going to make a couple
Yeah.
of announcements. I'm supposed to tell you that we've got Amy Thiessen coming really soon on the 28th. Amy's going to come, and Amy does kirtan, you know, so there'll be some chanting in that as well, I think. I think Amy maybe does Kundalini. I might be corrected.
I've never seen her in a Kundalini class, but I know she does other types of yoga.
Yes, yeah. And so that's the 28th. We're doing it here. It's going to be kind of our first real event. And so we'd love you to come. Tickets are available on our website. There's an event page and on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So we'd love you to come and be part of that. And then that's Sunday mornings. We're going to start really, really soon. We don't have an exact date yet, but it's going to like be the first week or two in March, and we're going to start our little, I call it our dance church, but it might be Sunday morning madness. We don't know. And the idea on Sunday mornings, we're going to have a sacred circle where people can share. The confidentiality will be a big part of that, and then we're going to be able to take those intentions into dance and dance them out in ecstatic dance, and it's going to be fun and community and the possibility for awakening.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some amazing experiences in ecstatic dance.
I have too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and we really let go, because you're not dancing with anybody. You know, dancing with yourself, and you know, sometimes you can even dance with your eyes closed. You know.
Oh, that's the only kind I do.
There you go. Close your eyes. Just, you know, be in the music, and it's really awesome. And so that's coming up. I just want to mention that this whole thing kind of came out of the order that I got from divinity, from my soul's guidance, from you know, was that to help people create meditation spaces in their homes, and our vision is, you know, is a great big hairy audacious goal. Our vision is really a meditation space, a sacred space in every home, in every place of work, in all the schools, and you know that meditation and mindfulness just becomes a standard. And so this is the kind of the core of it. These are my little recycled teak meditation stools, and we've got a kind of a real deal going on with the meditation stool and the little altar, and a abalone shell, and some sage, all for like $150. So it's an amazing kind of a deal. This is what the altars look like. So this and this. Can you see it? Yeah. And a little abalone shell and some sage all together. So that's all I want to say about that. And somebody's on the roof.
Somebody's doing dancing.
I know, they're up there doing dancing. So love you guys. Go to our website and check that out, or come on into the store and visit us. And thanks for being part of what we're doing. And check us out on YouTube too. We'd love it if you go to YouTube and subscribe. You know, and we're growing our YouTube audience as well as our Facebook audience and our Instagram audience and our LinkedIn and Pinterest, and we have all of that. It's all going, you know, and it's good fun. Okay, love you so much, and talk soon. Cheers. Yes.